the editor in the Ukiah Daily Journal about the Yes on B Coalition's suggestions about how to go forward at this point in time, and found that that the suggestion about diesel storage was one that provoked some thoughts in my mind that I see Mr. Puterbaugh has also been thinking about. And I would personally really like to see the county go ahead and research and find out what requirements are currently in place as far as documentedly, certifiably legal diesel storage and transfer, and require fuel sellers to not dispense to facilities and storage facilities which are not documentedly legal. It seems like a no-brainer to me because the diesel delivery guys know where they deliver. That's obvious. So, you know, we have a huge county and there are idiots using plastic tanks for inappropriate purposes. They're all over the place. Nobody knows where they are. It'd be a complete waste of time to go looking for all those when the guy that takes his fuel truck out there to fill them up knows where they are. So the second part is that I have two questions for Chairman Wattenberger. First is that my recollection is that at the end of last year, I believe I recall you having said on more than one occasion that you would be chairman this year and that a medical marijuana cap would be instituted at that time. It's now the middle of August and that hasn't happened. What the board brought us in the meantime was Measure B, which is rather in a different direction than a Citizens Advisory Board, which would bring people together from varying points of view. What you brought us instead was a fait accompli, and we don't appreciate that.
Thank you. Next speaker, Jeanette Bogue, please.
Good morning. I'm a little concerned at the direction it seems the community in Mendocino County is trying to go for. It seems that with the two appellate court decisions, People v. Kelly and People v. Fom Facti, both declaring the limits set forth in SB 420, which were the limits that were voted on in Measure B, are unconstitutional. The only real enforcement the county has right now is 9.31. But the Yes on B Coalition is not satisfied with civil abatement process. They want to criminalize the medical marijuana patients. They've repealed Measure G with the election. It's been less than 2 months. And Yes on B, by the way, only passed in Districts 1 and 2. There's suggestions that you can't have plants that are visible from outside the growing area can be unrealistic. For example, I live on a long lot. I have a backyard that is not visible from any street. I put up my fences. I put a greenhouse in my backyard. Yet the person to the left of me, the right of me, and behind me have two-story homes. So if they're on their upper deck patio, they can see into my backyard. And what they want to do is make me a criminal for doing that. It's becoming so restrictive for medical marijuana patients to cultivate their medicine that I think their theory is they'll just give up, quit, and leave. But we're here to stay. We want to make sure that the criminal aspect is gone. They're not talking about going after criminal growers. They're talking about going after medical marijuana patients and making it mandatory for a patient to have to register with the health department, which is a voluntary program through SB 420. In order to get the share of zip tags, you have to have a state identification card, which is a voluntary program. They want to make it mandatory. Now, every single patient is on a database. Why do patients want to be on a database? Don't they want protection? They're not giving any consideration to the safety of the patients. 9.31 was passed in January. We're in the middle of the grow season. We don't know how many civil nuisance complaints have been filed. We don't know how many have gone out and actually needed to be abated. We don't know how much funds the county is planning on collecting for those that were in violation and didn't abate. And we don't know how many people who were cited with an abatement notice and complied. There's nothing. They have theory, and they want to punish the patients, and it's not right. It just really isn't right. And if the board is going to allow this to happen, it's going to be very, very sad for the patients here. You're going to remove the supplies that they're allowed to have because you're limiting where they can cultivate. Now the demand goes up, leaving the patients to have to find outside resources for their medicine. And I think it's very wrong to restrict the patients the way Yes on B is trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Pete Lohman, followed by Clark Ram.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and Board. My name is Pete Lohman. I've lived and worked in Mendocino County for 40 years. We have a nice home out in the country, finally, after all these years. And my neighbor has got his plants growing right along and right in my sight. If I want to sell my house and move, I've got the real estate people, are going to show my place, show my house, and show my neighbor's marijuana plants. My wife and I are inundated with smell from it whenever one of the other neighbors is venting their indoor grow someplace. And it's just ridiculous that we have to tolerate that. And the only reason my neighbor would need medical marijuana is if he pulled his leg muscle climbing into his big four-wheel drive pickup. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lohman. Clark Ram, followed by Ross Liberty.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I don't have any prepared statement, as I just found out that this was even going to be presented today, so excuse me if I ramble a little bit here. I don't mean to. First of all...
Your name for the record, please.
Clark Ram.
Thank you.
I'm aghast that John McGowan would get up here and commend Ms. Nadell for obstructing the voter initiative process. I was surprised, first of all, that you guys went for it to begin with the whole Measure B to begin with. That while it's your right to put things on the ballot, it certainly preempted the Measure B yes people from having to gather the requisite signatures, and so that was a nice shortcut for them. But for Ms. Nadell to try to abort the initiative process is incomprehensible to me. Now, as I pointed out to you before, this herb that is in discussion and trying to be suppressed is a part of God's creation. It was right there in Genesis, the 11th verse, the beginning of creation. 3 days before God created man, he put every herb on the planet, not every herb except for marijuana. It's medically recognized as medicine, and when I was a little kid, granted it was shortly after World War II, Hitler was on everybody's mind, and I used to ask, why didn't somebody just kill Hitler before he got in power? And my parents, of course, having